Well, today we want to welcome everyone back to Unsaid. I'm your host, Catie Whiting, and we have one of our original guests who was on here when this was the Motherhood Dilemma, and myself and an intern were like just getting this going and had no idea what we were doing. And the lovely Madison Templeton from Madison Templeton Nutrition came on, and you actually talked about plastics a lot. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you remember that, and that was it. Like you had me from plastic, and my husband, he's used to it now, but at the time he's like, wow, like you're doing all the things. I'm like, yeah, get it out of the house.
Get it out. Yeah.
So aside from that, we can always go back to that, but we welcome you to Unsaid. Today, we're actually diving into PCOS. I need to understand it more. I have patients that need to understand it more. And really, we all need to understand that there's more out there than what the traditional good old Western medicine box has done for so many years in treating PCOS. So first, welcome, Madison. We're glad to have you back.
Thanks. I'm glad to be back.
Yes, good, good. So honestly, just give us, especially through your scope of practice and how you address things, like what is PCOS?
So, PCOS is a complex metabolic condition. A lot of people think it's just a hormonal condition, but it's a whole syndrome. And to be diagnosed with PCOS, you have to meet two of three criteria. You have to have cysts on your ovaries, you have to have male sex hormones either in your blood or you present with them. So, like acne, black hair growing on your chin, cheeks, nipples, belly, anywhere you don't want it to be growing, or irregular cycles. So you just have to meet two of those three to be diagnosed as PCOS.
Okay. Okay. And so average age, I didn't really talk about this before, but like, is there an average age of diagnosis? Is this a teenage
Uh,
diagnosis?
if there is, I don't know. I see it come up. I have clients that have never had a normal period in their whole lives.
Yeah.
So that probably, as soon as they started their period,
Yeah.
the syndrome kind of showed. But yeah. And then I have people that never had a problem conceiving with their first baby, always had regular periods, and then they have a baby and hormones shift, and then they're diagnosed with PCOS. So I personally see it come up in all stages of life.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Well, I honestly want to jump right into like, I have a lot of patients myself who have PCOS, and again, I'm ignorant to it. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about PCOS. A lot of my patients are treated, and you mentioned this in the pre-show, but a lot of my patients are treated with birth control, and that's just their answer. So you tell me from your practice, like what are the misconceptions? What do, the box, as we talked about, that it's being treated in, what does that look like? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest misconception is that if you want your hormones to be regulated, you need to be on birth control. And birth control does not regulate your hormones, it shuts them down. It shuts them down. That's how birth control works to prevent pregnancy. So it gives you a false bleed every month, but that is not technically a period because you didn't ovulate. So you're not actually having periods monthly, you're having bleeds monthly, not ovulating. And then the typical Western method is, we will regulate your periods with birth control. And then when you want to get pregnant, come back for fertility meds, or we'll send you back, or we'll send you to the fertility clinic. So, what I would like for people to know is that it doesn't have to be like that you can get your hormones regulated naturally, with diet shifts, lifestyle shifts, some supplementation shifts, and that every case is different. Every woman with PCOS is different from the next woman with PCOS, that we can't just lump everybody together and treat it all the exact same way because there's different things driving every different woman's PCOS.
Sure. Yeah. So it's complex, right? I think we had mentioned that before, like this box that we try to fit everyone in makes it seem like it's so simple. Like, here you are, this is what you have, suck it up, buttercup. And there's a story to it. Fair? Yeah.
Right. It's like everybody is offered birth control and metformin,
Yeah.
which is a medication that helps reduce blood sugar levels that comes with crazy gut side effects. So a lot of people try it and they don't tolerate it, but they also don't tell you typically like metformin depletes your B vitamins, which are super important for fertility. So, if you're on it long term and then you decide you want to get pregnant, now you're also dealing with, low B vitamins and that extra difficulty of, nutrient depletion
Yeah.
going into trying to conceive.
So it's, yeah, so there is, it's complex all over the
Yeah,
place. So Madison,
totally.
before they come to or I guess when someone initially comes to you, like what do you see being the biggest challenges with women that have been diagnosed or undiagnosed that have PCOS? Like physically, mentally, all of the things, infertility, what do you see being the ones where they're like, this sucks?
Yeah, like the thing that makes them say, "This is so painful that I'm ready to get help for
Yeah.
this." So we see, like I mentioned, the physical characteristics of acne, black hair growing where you don't want it to grow, usually down the midline of the body, chin, cheeks, nipples, belly, male pattern hair loss, so like above the temples, acne, if I didn't say that
Yeah.
already, acne, oily skin, and then of course fertility challenges. So a lot of that's probably the biggest price to pay of having PCOS is often that you're not able to get pregnant as easily as you'd like to. So yeah, having fertility struggles because you're not ovulating. And of course I see clients who don't, their goal is not to have a baby, but they know that it's really healthy to have a period
Yeah.
and they don't have one or they only have a few per year. And so just being a sign of like just your womanhood,
Yeah.
they call your period your fifth vital sign because it is a sign of health and vitality. So not having one or not having one regularly, is your body's way of telling you something's up and we need to work on it.
Yeah, you need to, yeah, your fifth. I haven't heard that in all the interviews I've done in regards to hormones and birth control. I have not heard the fifth vital sign.
Yeah, it's actually a
Absolutely.
book. It's
Is it?
the name of a book. Yeah, it's a really great book. But I think it's helpful too, just knowing that as a mom to somebody that has a daughter,
Yes.
it can help you educate her so that she can go into her, her cycling years, knowing like, that there is a problem if it doesn't come regularly after, of course, the first, you know, several months or
Sure.
years of irregularity. But I think a lot of us just weren't taught,
Yeah.
that your period is a sign of health. And if it's too short, too long, any, too brown, anything like that, that there's a problem to be fixed.
There's something happening. No, I think we could talk for years just on that and changing that
Yeah.
dialogue for sure. So this is what it looks like, just to repeat. So before, right, someone comes to you, and I'm guessing a lot of women that come to you have already been, I'm guessing, put on birth control. Like they're coming like this isn't working. How do they make it to you?
Yeah, they've either been put on it and they experience symptoms like especially mood symptoms, made me feel crazy, or they figured out like this isn't a true period and this isn't healthy. So I'll get people that come to me after they've tried it. And then I also get people now more so than ever who are just unwilling to even go on birth control. They're like, that's a prescription medication. And they know somewhere deep down that that's not the only answer. So just trying to take more charge of their health rather than letting their provider tell them like this is the only option.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is so cool that there's the resource. But I would say, and tell me if I'm wrong, I'm just going off of patients I know, like they're so defeated without I'm not saying without just you, but without a you, like before they make it to you, they're so defeated. Like, in my mental health practice, I'll just see increased, depression and anxiety. And I never historically years ago connected it with, well, sure, like, not only do they have PCOS that's probably being treated improperly. They've been on birth control for a decade and they can't conceive. And it's just a plethora of emotional toll. Do you see that when they come into you?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And that's one of the big side effects of being on birth control long term is
Yeah.
depression. And so I see a lot of people who come in with these symptoms that their doctor either didn't know how to deal with
Sure.
or just went to the one solution of, while we're at it, here's an antidepressant. When
Yeah.
like really, their gut's a mess. That's also a big thing that I see in PCOS is that gut health is severely compromised and your gut and your brain have a two-way connection and they talk to each other. So when your gut is a mess, your brain, your moods, you know, all of that anxiety, it's all affected. So, rather than like slapping a band-aid on it, like let's figure out why you're feeling depressed in the first place. But and of course all the things that you mentioned, wanting a baby and not being able to conceive one. Yeah, that's depressing. And then feeling like you're kind of at a dead end with options, or like you don't have another choice except taking more prescription meds or going to a fertility clinic, that feels lonely.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels lonely. That's right. That's right. So but there's a you. That's why we have you today. No, I mean, like, so where is the hope? Like, what do you do when they come to you?
Yeah, yeah. So I do a comprehensive assessment. So, like I said, every woman with PCOS is different
Yeah.
from the next. So, not everybody has insulin resistance with PCOS. That's another big misconception is that automatically, insulin resistance is driving your PCOS. And for most people, that's true. There's 70-ish% of women with PCOS have insulin resistance, but not everybody, you know? And so looking at their labs, looking at insulin, looking at inflammation, that's another big driver of PCOS that I guarantee you your doctor's not looking at, you know, do you live in a moldy environment? Like, is your gut a mess? Because the gut, typically a woman with PCOS, her gut will have less diversity in it and also more bad bacteria and less good bacteria. So, looking at the gut is a really important piece that, as far as I know, conventional doctors don't deal with. No one's going to be like, oh, we should fix her gut health or do a comprehensive stool test and figure out what's going on in there that could be contributing or worsening her PCOS symptom.
Okay. So that being said, so say it again. So they're coming to you in the first visit and they've been on, let's say, birth control or metformin. I didn't even know that was one of the medicines prescribed for however long, and they're probably pretty hopeless at this point. Like, how can you help me? What else are you
Right.
looking for? Because obviously the gut and mind, huge connection.
Right.
What
Yeah.
else in your
Yeah. So I'm
comprehensive?
looking for inflammation. I'm looking at
Yeah.
blood sugar labs. I'm looking at the gut. I'm looking at balance of minerals and where we're depleted. That's, like I said, we see a lot of like B vitamin depletion, mineral depletion, sodium, potassium, magnesium, all very common. And I'm also looking at stress resiliency. So the less resilient you are to stress, the more a little thing will impact your health in a bigger way. So those are all things that I look at in every single PCOS case. I'm also always looking at thyroid function. Some doctors will look at that, and some look at it kind of halfway. But that is also a big driver of PCOS.
Yeah.
Is when your thyroid is slow, your metabolism is slow. And then that insulin resistance becomes stronger and stronger. So that's a really important piece. And especially for a woman who's trying to conceive, your TSH should be below 2.5. And that is something that I want everyone to know trying to conceive PCOS or not, because your regular primary care doctor often will not know that. And so if you've been trying and trying and trying and they check your TSH and it's a 3 or a 4, that is normal per the lab reference range. But for a woman who's trying to conceive, it's too high. It is really hard to conceive and hold on to a healthy pregnancy when your TSH is above a 2.5. So I want everybody to advocate for themselves there.
Yeah.
Like I said, PCOS or not, I see thyroid issues in PCOS more often than not. Like I'd say at least in my practice, 75% of the time minimum. Um,
Wow.
they do often go together, but I'm also speaking to the woman that is just having difficulty conceiving, because that's something that everybody should know. And if
Yeah.
it's above that, then advocate for either medication or go work with somebody who can help you get it down. And if your provider is resistant to those things, then find somebody else.
Woo, preach it. Well, and I just want to say that again, like the lab, what did you call it? I'm not going to say it right. The lab range, right? We get our
Their
labs
reference
back
range.
and it's within this range. And I just got labs done. I just read them yesterday and like all of them are in the green. And so immediately I'm like, oh, my labs are fine. But then the person I'm working with calls, they're like, this lab doesn't look that great. And I'm like, what? Because those
Yeah.
labs aren't optimal for our individual story. Is that fair to say?
Those are what we call conventional ranges, and that is where Americans are. And
Right.
so I'll take the TSH
Please.
example. The reference range was designed using where Americans are, including Americans with hypothyroidism. And you don't want your range to be the same as somebody with hypothyroidism, right? Even
Right.
if you have hypothyroidism, you want that to be optimized. So I use a functional reference range, which is where you feel good, you know.
Yeah.
So that is very different. Being optimal is very different from being normal. And normal in our system, in the conventional allopathic system, just means not super sick, so
Yeah.
there's a very big difference. And not super sick and like I feel good, I have a regular period, I'm able to conceive if I want to.
Yes.
all those things.
Yeah. That section right there is like all we needed, like the perfect thing. No, absolutely. So you run your comprehensive evaluation at the beginning is, I mean, labs, stool samples. How are you,
Yeah.
just for my own curiosity, how are you measuring, what do you call it, stress resilience?
Stress resiliency,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do that with a hair mineral test analysis, and it looks at not only the minerals, but also their relationship with each other.
Okay.
And that tells us a lot about how resilient they are to stress, how easily nutrients and hormones are able to penetrate the cell. Because I do see this a lot. I keep using the thyroid example, but it's just such a good one. And so many people have hypothyroid that you can have good thyroid levels in the blood, but still feel those hypothyroid symptoms because the hormone is not able to properly penetrate the cell. And that's a mineral issue. It's called cellular hypothyroidism. So that is one reason I hear this all the time that labs are normal. They might even be in the optimal functional range, but I still, can't lose weight. I'm still cold all the time. I'm still constipated. I still have an irregular cycle, all these hypothyroid symptoms. So that's why I love using a mineral test because it gives more insight into that piece, like what's going on a cellular level that could be impacting metabolism, thyroid health, adrenal health.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I come see you, you've got my blood, you've got some stool, you've got my hair. You're
Yeah,
getting all
we
of
do
it.
it.
You're getting all of
Yeah.
it. Okay.
I like to cast a wide net of data
Yes.
and then we get back, the points that are problems for you specifically. And they're going to look different every single client. I've never had a PCOS client whose protocol looked the exact same as another PCOS client.
Like, I mean, I think people are getting it that are listening, but like, let's just say that again. Like, you have never had one PCOS client look like the next PCOS client look like the next, yet
Right.
majority are coming in with the same treatment from
Right.
someone else.
They are all basically all offered, the birth control to shut down the hormones
Yeah.
slash regulate the cycle
Yeah.
is the guise that it's presented under. And then often I say metformin because that's specifically for insulin or blood sugar levels. And again, the assumption is that if you have PCOS, you also have some level of insulin resistance. And like I said, 7 out of 10 times that's true. But what about the other 3 times? Like
Right.
10% of the population has PCOS. So that's a lot of people. If you're,
Yeah.
30% of those, then we're not treating properly.
Yeah.
And
So
even the 7% is not necessarily proper treatment.
no, I mean, that's a big, so 1 in 10 women have PCOS.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen estimates slightly lower than that, 1 in 7. And then I've seen a little bit higher, like 1 in 12. But I think a good average 1 in 10.
So I just want to picture, like, because I just went to Target yesterday, like picture the Target checkout
Yeah.
line, and there's like 20 women, or there's probably like 100, right? And there's 10 of them have PCOS. That's a
Okay.
big stat. Okay. So you've done your evaluation. I mean, we could go a million ways with this, but what can you bring to the table now besides comprehensive evaluation? And now I have like all of these cool results. What do you do? What would be your treatment approach, obviously in a broad term, to help someone with PCOS, especially if they're just trying to have a baby?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, we need to get you ovulating. So, figuring out why you're not ovulating with all the data we collected. Insulin resistance is a big driver for that. So, I like to start broadly speaking, with blood sugar balance and making sure that that is really shored up. So, the biggest blanket recommendation I could give would be something like eating 30 grams of protein at breakfast every day. And if you're a person that doesn't eat breakfast, that is going to sound like a lot. And I would just encourage you to eat anything at first, and slowly build that over time. But that sets up your blood sugar regulation for the rest of the day. So if we skip breakfast or we're only having like a little carby thing like a banana, then you're set up for lots of dips and spikes throughout the day. We want our blood sugar to be nice and even rather than like really high or really low. So
30
that's
grams. That's, yeah.
30 grams. I know. With most women, PCOS or not, I usually like to see a minimum of 100 grams per day. And that's, really important for a woman trying to conceive, a woman going through perimenopause, postmenopause. And I would say 100 might even be on the low end. But for somebody who is coming into me, eating 40 or 50 a day,
Right.
we'll set that a little bit lower and we'll get there over time. But I would say that's a good blanket recommendation along with getting really good sleep. It is very important. The more sleep you get and the better quality it is, the better insulin sensitivity you'll have. And that goes for everybody. So easier to manage blood sugars when you've gotten a decent like 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I see a lot of recommendations for 7 to 8. In practice, I just feel like most women feel better with like 9,
Yeah. Yeah.
closer to 9, but I'd love for at least 8.
How are you checking for quality? Like, because that's a huge thing. They're like, oh, I slept like 10 hours last night, but the quality was crap. Like, how are you checking for quality or they?
Yeah. So for me, the easiest ways are, are you getting up at night
Okay.
and then falling back asleep or not? But if you're waking multiple times in the night, I consider that poor quality. And really the biggest test is when you wake up, do you feel rested? And if the answer is no, then we got to figure that out of why. Like, was it because you woke up multiple times, you know, which usually in the clients that I see is a blood sugar issue. So when your blood sugar dips too low at night, you have a cortisol response to get your blood sugar up, but it also wakes you up. And then it's fairly hard to get back to sleep. Or if you're going to the bathroom a lot at night, go to pelvic floor PT. Like
Yeah.
they say 0 to 1 time is really the normal. And then another issue that I see a lot is people that breathe through their mouth at night. So if you're getting a quality or, if you're getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep per night and you still wake up tired, besides the blood sugar issue, my next question is, do you breathe through your mouth at night? Because that is a stressful way to breathe for your body. So instead of your body being able to rest and digest overnight, it is more in a fight or flight state. So, you can go get a sleep study. You can also try just mouth taping. It's like $9 for a pack of 60.
Yeah.
I tell people this is a really inexpensive experiment to see if it helps. And for the people that it helps significantly.
Really?
My husband,
Yes. Somebody recommended for me to do that. I've been too freaked out. But I mean, you just sleep all night because yeah, of course, you have to breathe somehow. So it pushes it through the nose. Interesting. Okay.
right.
Wow. So protein and sleep. Sleep is just across the board for everybody all the time.
Yeah, protein, sleep, and then I would say gentle exercise. So getting your steps in, walking, and then weightlifting. So the more muscle mass you have, the more fat you burn just at rest, and it sensitizes your body to insulin. So lots of reasons why you would want to build muscle. And that's why I typically recommend movement wise to get your steps in and build muscle with lifting weights, resistance training, yoga, Pilates,
Yeah.
anything that works for you that you enjoy
Yeah.
that you'll do consistently.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay. And that's another one that I've heard so much out of all the people I've interviewed for multiple reasons, like strength training. Like we've got
Yeah.
to, this is not cardioville anymore. Like not that that's not good, but
Right.
what is it? Jazzercise or whatever. Like this is strength is key.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to look like you going into a gym and,
Yeah. Right.
lifting as much weight as possible. That's why I say just finding something that works for you.
Yeah.
Like, I actually do enjoy lifting weights, but when I found Pilates, that built my muscles up over a period of a few months, way more than weightlifting ever did. And I hear that all the time of like, I tried this, it didn't work, or I tried Pilates, it didn't work. And then I tried weightlifting and that was the secret sauce.
Yeah.
So it requires kind of an open-mindedness from you to be willing to try things and be willing for things to not work, and then go on and try the next thing. But it helps to have guidance of like, what should I try next?
Yeah, absolutely. A plan, a little bit of a plan. I'm glad you say that because they're like the thing I've learned the most from interviewing all of, really providers such as yourself who have more of the functional approach is like we're so used to a one size fits all, here's the answer in Western medicine that it's sometimes hard for our brain to be like, hey, this is like trial and error. Like we have to go. We have a lot of things we can do. We just have to see the one that fits you. Do you see that as a pushback when people come? Or are they so ready to see you that they're like, do anything, I'll take all the time in the world?
Yeah. Yeah. I am very lucky to have clients that are really
Yeah.
open and they're like, they've generally tried several things before coming to me. And so a lot of the recommendations that I give are ones they've not tried before, not heard before. And they're like, great, give me something different. But, and I would say usually I get clients that are not, they're kind of either they were or they are no longer in that Western medicine mindset of, they come to me because they don't want a one size fits all medication plan. They want something that is customized. They know that their body is different from any other body. Their story is different. Their health history is different. Their environment is different. How could we possibly treat every woman the same when everything about her is different from the next woman?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's beautiful. Like condense that on a bumper sticker somehow, but yeah, absolutely. So bring, my brain jumps around with this stuff, but bringing it back, like you gave us the main, hit the ground running, sleep, walking, and weightlifting. Yeah. So these are your go-tos when you meet someone. Okay. Then what comes next? Like I mean, I know again, every story is different, but
Sure.
generally speaking, what comes next?
Yeah. So then we get lab work back and I kind of customize, based on this, we're going to do this. But I can say, I give everybody specific nutrition recommendations based on like, if something was low, I'm going to recommend, if B vitamins were low, I might recommend different types of meat to kind of get those levels up. I give a lifestyle plan. So whether that's sleep related, movement related, light related, making sure that you're kind of up with the sun and down with the sun, getting movement in the morning. And then I give a list of supplements based on the labs we found. Everybody's supplement plan looks a little bit different, but I would say ones that I use pretty frequently include like magnesium, which is great for sleep. It's great for bowel regularity. It's great for insulin sensitivity. There are so many different types of magnesium out there, so many different forms.
Yes.
I typically use a magnesium glycinate unless there's, something else going on, but that one is specifically really good for anxiety, which a lot of my clients experience.
Yeah.
Most of us experience at some level. So magnesium is a great one. And it's also really hard to get from our food supply anymore. So I feel comfortable recommending that to almost everybody. And we'll get your hair test back and kind of see specifically how high we need to go with it. That's one I use a lot. In the PCOS population specifically, I like to use an inositol if there's a high level of insulin resistance.
Okay, I have no idea what that is. What is that?
So it's in the family of B vitamins,
Okay.
and it is like not the best tasting. It's a little bit bitter, but you can get it in a pill form, but most of my clients use it in the powder form. You just mix it in with a little bit of water and take it once or twice a day. And it really helps insulin sensitivity. So yeah, I use that one with insulin resistance a good bit. And then I also kind of, no matter what your problem is, I like to use mineral supplements. So sodium, potassium, what we see as electrolytes, we lose those kind of big time in a stress response. So whether you're responding to like a stressful day at work or a stressful environment, like you live again, like maybe in a moldy environment, or, it doesn't have to be psychological stress. It can also be the stress of maybe eating something in your diet that's causing inflammation that you don't know about. Your body is constantly trying to put that fire out. So that's a stressor. So you lose sodium and potassium, magnesium, B vitamins like pretty quickly in a stress response. So I like to use especially a sodium and potassium electrolyte supplement. And that typically turns energy levels around pretty quickly. And we have to remember that minerals are the building blocks of hormones. So whether you're dealing with infertility with or without PCOS, minerals is always kind of like a first phase
Whoa.
add for my clients.
So out of all the hormone research I've done, no one has said that. So let me say it again. Minerals are the building blocks of hormones.
Right.
So, okay. Wow. So to really, like, now I'm curious. I don't have PCOS, but from the hormonal level, they're doing a lot of stuff. So I would need ideally a hair follicle test, or a hair test, not a follicle, hair test, to check my mineral levels to see what's happening where, because it could be affecting my hormones.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So they're kind of like the spark plugs that make everything else happen. And so without that catalyst of the minerals, things are not going to synthesize properly. They're not going to detox properly. You're going to see a lot of downstream issues if you don't have the spark plugs. The car will not turn on without the spark plugs, right? Like it's a small thing, but it makes a huge impact. And my clients that had a deficiency coming in and try mineral supplementation. I mean, that is usually the very first thing I see turn around
Wow.
of like energy is better. I'm not peeing as much. I actually feel hydrated because water is not super hydrating by itself.
Right.
And especially if you're sweating a lot or stressing a lot, you need to replete those minerals.
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest ones I see when I get hair tests back
Yeah.
that are the most depleted. I love the adrenal cocktail powder, and it's called pickleball cocktail powder. They're both from Jigsaw Health. One is really high in sodium, one is really high in potassium. I also love Raby powder, which is really high in potassium
Okay.
and has some really fun flavors.
Yeah. Good.
So those are my
Your
favorites.
go-tos. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. So right away, like, I mean, you have answers. I mean, I know you wait on labs and things to come back, but you have answers right away of ways to just intervene that are different than probably what they're coming in with. So then if we can go one more step, like, and maybe you give us a little bit more info, or maybe you're just telling us like this is like the end of a perfect case study, but what happens then? Like, what's our goal here?
For a PCOS client,
Yes, for a PCOS client.
okay, so goal is symptom regulation. So if they're
Yeah.
coming in with acne, for example, like that's a big pain point for a lot of women, or they're coming in because they want to lose weight and nothing has worked. The goal for me is whatever her goal is. If she wants to lose weight, she wants clear skin, she wants to ovulate regularly, so I would like to see within 3 to 4 months, it takes hormones about 90 to 100 days to shift. So, it's not an overnight thing, but within 3 to 4 months, I would expect to see clearer skin, ability to lose weight slowly but sustainably, and then hopefully cycles getting closer and closer together with confirmed ovulation. And then, of course, if her goal is to get pregnant, we're obviously looking for a positive pregnancy test.
Absolutely. So that no matter what, it is not hopeless. Like I have a lot of clients, they feel like I have PCOS, it's going to be, all the way to IVF land for me to have a baby. And you're saying that that is not always the case.
Right. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And especially if you're experiencing those symptoms, that is your body's way of talking to you.
Yeah.
Even if you are having to at some point have some sort of assisted reproductive technology, you will be far better off going into that. You'll have more successful outcomes if you get a lot of that under control first and work on egg health first. That's another piece we haven't really talked about, but that's a really important part of it if you're wanting to get pregnant.
Can you hit
But
on that a little, or is that way complicated?
yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
happy to because
please.
so many people don't
Yeah.
do it. And with or without PCOS, with or without fertility struggles, I would love for anybody that thinks that they might want to conceive in the next 6 or so months
Yeah.
to work on egg health. And so basically we're looking at mitochondrial health, like the health of the little powerhouse of your cell. We have mitochondria in all of our cells, but in our egg cells, we have like 10 times more
Okay.
than the other cells. So when you're looking at how many years you've been on this earth, you're just looking at more damage to those cells. And that's why they kind of draw that line of like, okay, when you're 35, you're considered advanced maternal age and it's harder to get
Sure.
pregnant. And that's sometimes true, sometimes not. But what is true is that every year you get older, the more damage
Sure.
happens to your eggs. So repairing that damage looks like, diet wise, lots of colorful fruits and veggies, especially berries. So like very dark pigmented fruits and veggies. So strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, colorful veggies. Supplement wise, we work on things like inflammation is a really big one because that's going to damage mitochondria. Like if you're again eating something in the diet that's really inflammatory or something in your environment. Plastics, I'll bring those back to
Please.
this conversation. BPA is a huge factor that makes PCOS worse and that damages egg quality. And there have been studies that have been done about maternal BPA exposure, so that when you're pregnant with a daughter, if you're exposed to a lot of BPA when you're pregnant, she is more likely to develop PCOS.
Whoa.
So
Yes.
but yeah, so egg health also involves staying away from things that are toxic. And the biggest one that I tell people is BPA, plastics,
Yes.
plastic water bottles, receipts. They have a little coating of BPA on them if they're heat printed, which is almost all of them.
Yeah.
So decline your receipts, plane tickets that are printed out. Also, same thing, just a little coating of BPA. Use the ones on your phone. So that's really big in the conversation of egg health and sperm health too. The same goes for his sperm. Sperm are very susceptible to oxidative stress. So that same type of damage that comes with age or working around chemicals, handling a lot of plastics. So the foods that you're eating for your egg health should be the same foods he's eating for his sperm health.
Ooh, it's not just on her.
Not
Yes. The food, I gotta say that again. The foods that she's eating for her egg health, he needs to eat for his sperm health. Equal across the board. Yes, beautiful. Yeah, so the dark to say that again, the dark like leafy greens, the rich colored berries, all of those, the good ones. Okay. I remember in the earlier episode, or like one of the first episodes I ever did, you mentioned the lids to coffee cups, like at Starbucks,
Yeah.
and like
Yes.
I just now all I do is see. I don't use them anymore because now I'm crazy about it. But the coffee cups in general, I just see people with all these plastic lids, and I'm like, no, throw it
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. And especially when they come in contact with something hot or acidic. So if it's on a hot coffee lid, and also I'll mention the coffee cup for hot coffee is lined in plastic. If it was just paper, it would seep out. So, I think that especially for a woman thinking about conceiving sometime in the next 6 months,
Yeah.
it would behoove you to
Yeah.
get, if you're going out to get coffee, getting an iced coffee, at least you don't have that element of the heat with the plastic. So that makes the plastic leach into your drink and then you drink it, and that alone isn't enough to thwart a fertility journey. But then you think of all the other ways we come into plastic, it's in the food that we buy, it's in our cars, it's on our steering wheels. Like, it's as much as you can do to reduce your kind of bucket of plastic exposure, the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I had to figure out. Is like I couldn't rid of all, or I'd have to get in a bubble, but you can definitely attempt, especially warm. I remember you saying warm plastic. So yeah, egg health, absolutely. So I mean, just to sort of resum that all up, we've got someone who's been treated, a woman that's been treated with PCOS in the Western medicine box, birth control, metformin. They come to you, you're doing a full comprehensive evaluation, which sounds like this should be done in general normally for a woman with these symptoms, and your goal is to just not just but your goal is for them to feel good, right? For them to feel how they want to feel, get like lessen the symptoms, and if there's infertility, we're headed down that path to ovulate, to get good egg health, and then optimally to conceive. I mean, yeah, to conceive.
Right, right. And like I said, going back to the period as your fifth vital sign, even if your goal is not to become pregnant, it is a marker of health that you ovulate and that ovulation is strong,
Yes.
so that should you want to have a baby, you could,
Yes.
even if that's not your goal. The health wise, fertility is a health marker.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Anything in and I know we didn't just stay on PCOS because there's so much involved to it, but anything specifically for PCOS that we missed that you want to say?
I would say just the biggest thing is that there are other options. And, I think that we kind of hammered that home pretty nicely, but, that there is support out there that, if one provider said something or gave you a treatment plan that doesn't sit well with you, find somebody different. There are so many other opinions out there. And I think that the knowledge surrounding PCOS is slowly but surely becoming greater, but, just the autonomy of the fact that your treatment plan should look different from the standard one because there is no standard case, right?
Yeah, there's no standard case, right? There's no standard woman. I like it. I
That's
think
right. No standard woman.
I like it. That's going to be our tagline of this. I mean, that's right. I mean, because, and, we look at that in mental health all the time, and I'm social work trained. So we look at this, the whole system, but our story alone, like the environment around us growing up, changes the whole trajectory, and no one has the same story. So like just that
Right.
alone, much less genetic changing and
Yeah.
hormonal changes with plastic exposure, all the things. So,
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Because even your genes don't determine your destiny, because your environment is what's responsible for what's
Yeah,
keeping them off or turning them on.
absolutely. Another one, your genes don't determine your destiny. We're just ripping out bumper stickers here. I love it. I love it.
Multi tagline.
Yes. Well, no, this was all great. This was wonderful. Beyond PCOS and in general too. I don't want to I want to give a little bit of time to this. Like other reasons women come to you are.
Yeah. So other reasons besides PCOS management, fertility is a big one.
Yeah.
Weight loss resistance. They know that hormones are out of balance, but they can't figure out what's going on, why their body doesn't feel safe enough to say, okay, I'll let you lose weight, or okay, I'll let you conceive now. Thyroid problems are another big one that I see. Like I said, most people have some level of thyroid dysfunction. So the symptoms that they present with are just that they are just dragging all day. It doesn't matter how much they sleep. It doesn't matter how good their labs are. They are just exhausted. And at some point as a mom, you are kind of conditioned to just think that that's just how it's going to be for you for a while. And that's just not true. Like there is very much a difference of like newborn, broken sleep day versus just like, your baby's a little bit older and you still feel awful. The
Feel like
periods aren't,
crap. Yeah.
you know, constipated.
Yeah.
I do see a lot of gut health, a lot of like bloating, constipation, or on the flip side, somebody that has diarrhea multiple times per day. We're not absorbing anything, and
Yeah.
then that person will also feel very low energy.
Sure.
Um, so, so yeah, I'd say the biggest symptoms that I see are periods that are irregular, not able to get pregnant, poor energy, not able to lose weight, and then gut symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I want to say that about periods too, to hone it in. Like, I hear so many times I'll ask that in my evaluation, just, and again, I'm not anywhere near you. Like, do you have regular periods? And so many times now it has been regular in
Right.
decades. And I'm like, now that I'm learning so much more, ignorant me didn't know, like, oh no, that's not good. Like, you need, it should be, let's do the things. And there's individuals out there such as yourself that are doing the things. Where can we find you? Give all your, I know we'll put it in the description, all your handles, but it's MadisonTempletonNutrition.com. Am I saying that
Right.
right? And then you're on
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, and your Instagram is awesome. There's always a great video where I'm like learning things super fast. It's full of awesome reels. And yeah, can people contact you? What would you like to say
Yeah.
about your biz?
Yeah. So the way that it works is you book a discovery call. And if you think that, it might be a good fit, book a call. We talk on the phone. You tell me what's going on with you. And I give insight on whether or not I'd be able to help.
Okay.
And then we would kind of start the process if you want to sign on as a one-on-one client. So yeah, you can do that from my website. You can do that from my Instagram links. Feel free to send me an Instagram DM. Those are always open.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
So I just rolled out a PCOS mini support package. So that's for somebody that, knows that they want some more help, but are not able to do the full, comprehensive hormone support package that includes like the hair test and the stool test as well. The mini package includes a set of blood labs that are ones that I typically see that are off in PCOS, and they still cast a wide net, thyroid, inflammation, some micronutrients, inflammation, and insulin. So it includes blood labs and then 3 visits. So it's about half the length of the other one.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And that's live. Your
Yeah.
mini is ready.
Yeah.
Yay.
Book it. You can just book that
Okay.
straight, that you don't have to do a discovery call. So yeah, if you're having trouble, with your doctor ordering the right labs for you, or, you're kind of piecemealing one lab at a time, this kind of, again, throws a wide net out
Yes.
there and then brings back like, okay, these are things that are driving your PCOS, that are affecting your symptoms. How can we get these back in more optimal ranges?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's again, the optimal range is not it's not always the rate. What did you call it? The
Like the conventional range.
conventional range. Yes, the conventional range and the functional range are different, and that is very important to know that conventional does not always mean that you feel great.
Right. Yeah, it can be normal, but normal doesn't mean optimal.
Madison, we're so grateful to have you on again. I think Beck, you were like, I think like maybe the first or second interview I ever did, which was years ago now, and I was in my closet. I don't know if
Yes.
you remember that. I was in my clothes closet, which was a horrible backdrop, trying to not let like everybody, because yeah, we were home. And anyways, it was, yes. But I learned
Yeah.
so much from you. You've given your time again. I will make sure everyone listening, all of Madison's, handles and website will be in our description. And please reach out to her, or at least follow her on Instagram, because you just are going to learn. And I think if I could sum it up, like, we don't have to fit in a box. We've been jammed into this box and it doesn't fit right. So
Right.
individuals and practitioners like Madison are here to like yank us out of that box and get us feeling optimal. So Madison,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on today.
You're welcome.
And for all of our listeners, Madison is located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and has a beautiful office in downtown Chattanooga for in person, but she can see virtually anyone in the United States. So
Mhm.
if you are listening and you are not close to us, please still go follow her on Instagram, reach out on her website. She is fabulous, and will be honest with you if you're a fit for what she is able to provide. So get the help you need. No need to even search in your city. Madison's here.
Happy to see in person or virtual, you know,
All the women. Bring all the women.
all the women, all the ways. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, that is it for Unsaid today. We want to make sure we are talking about the things that no one likes to talk about. So you all have a good day. We'll see you soon.